Breaking today, yes, they met. But King Charles gave Harry the cold shoulder with no special treatment, which may explain, and these two images from Meghan's mole side by side show why Harry looked so miserable on leaving Clarence House. So here's what went down. Charles, according to The Sun, attended a Privy Council meeting from 3:45 to 4:15 p.m, then an investiture with the 95-year-old Holocaust survivor Manfred Goldberg from 4:15 p.m. till 5 p.m. Harry was driven in the gates at 5:21 p.m, with Charles beginning another meeting with an Australian dignitary at 6:10 p.m, meaning Harry was out by 6:14 p.m. But critically, Sophie, the Duchess of Edinburgh, was seen leaving Clarence House just 20 minutes before Harry arrived. Tellingly, Harry and his driver, the Barack Obama former bodyguard Christopher Sanchez, were made to use the visitors' entrance. They were not driven in through the gate on the Mall, which had earlier been used by the King and Sophie, but is simply for members of the royal family. What was interesting to me too, and I'm going to get reaction and analysis and news from Lady Colin Campbell in just one moment, but before I bring her in, even ITV News and the two friends of Harry, Chris Shipp, their royal editor, and Tom Bradby, their boss, made it clear that this meeting was not significant and actually went for a much shorter period than what the rest of the mainstream media is reporting. Watch this. I need you to do something for me right now. It is free. It is easy. It is simple. Just hit that subscribe button on YouTube. That's because over 50% of you watching this video haven't done that yet. So, Lady Colin Campbell, yes, they met. Yes, that was against William's wishes. But there was no sense that I'm getting that Charles laid out the red carpet for Harry. And indeed, we'll come to this in just a moment, Tom Sykes suggesting that it was actually Harry who ended up apologising to the King, not the other way round. But what are you hearing about this meeting, Lady C?
Well, I'm hearing that Harry had to appear with the understanding that he couldn't repeat whatever had happened. I think I actually said that this was going to be a condition of the meeting the last time we spoke, that if they met, Harry was going to have to give assurances that he wouldn't ever leak the contents. But also my understanding is that Harry wanted the meeting because Harry needs the meeting, because Harry and Meghan are in desperate financial plights at the moment. And the only thing they have going for them, and the only selling point, is his royal status. And that the King sort of consented to it, but Harry is so totally hemmed in. And let's remember, they were not alone during that meeting. Charles makes sure that he's never alone with Harry. And I also said, I think on yesterday's Twitter, or I might have said it on a show I filmed that's coming out at 4:00, that I was also told that it was going to be a lot shorter than the apparent 45 minutes. Because remember, Dan, the last time Charles was frog-marched into receiving Harry, the meeting was a totality of 12 minutes. And my understanding is that this one was more like 25 minutes to a half an hour. And they were not alone. They were not alone. So.
And that's the critical point, isn't it, Lady C? This is not a normal household. So even though Harry may have been within the grounds of Clarence House for 55 minutes, the meeting is only a short part of that because, of course, he would have been taken by a footman to the room. And what's the process, Lady C? Effectively, at some point, Charles presses a button and Harry's brought in for tea, and then Charles presses another button and that's his cue to leave.
Well, pretty much, yes. You have to arrive, you have to be greeted, you have to be led into wherever you're going. All of this takes time. And also, when you're departing, you have to reverse the process. So the practicalities alone show that Harry wasn't there. He didn't step out of the car and Pa was there saying, "Oh, Harry, wonderful to see you." And Harry said, "Oh, Pa, you love me so much." My understanding is that the king refused to receive Harry unless Harry understood that he needed to be well behaved, or he was not going to throw any scenes the way he normally does, and that Harry has displayed some penitence. And I wouldn't have said it's an actual apology, but my understanding is that Harry has been somewhat penitent, and that is and Harry has without actually apologizing, he's made it clear that he is penitent, and that has been the basis upon which what is basically this is the sort of meeting that the king does with strangers. Mm-hmm. It's not the sort of meeting that he does with loved ones. He doesn't do it with friends. He doesn't do it with family. It's a stranger's meeting. It is for show. It is, but also, I think the king wants to be able to have, and I've said it all along, Dan, as indeed have you, that the king really would like to have some civilized relationship with his son. And that because a parent's relationship with a child is entirely different from a sibling's. And William will be very hardline, and quite rightly so too. But it's really difficult for a parent to totally spurn a child, especially when he knows the child has serious drug problems, serious personality problems, and might actually have been born somewhat handicapped. Let's put it that way.
No, indeed. He has sympathy for that reason. Of course he does. I don't really, but I understand that that's Charles's motivation. Lady C, I know we both respect Tom Sykes, who runs the Royalist Substack. He believes, Lady C, and I just want to play you a little bit of what he said and get you to react, but he believes this is all about Charles, who, as Tom Sykes reports in a way that the mainstream media hasn't, Charles, who is dying. We obviously hope it will be a long time that he lives with this incurable cancer, but given the health battles, he really does want this to wind up with a meeting with his grandchildren, Archie and Lily. Now, Lady C, I think that is good analysis from Tom Sykes, but the reality is we're still left where we were, which is that Harry, despite his, non-apology, as you put it, is still saying that he will not bring the children to the United Kingdom unless there's security. That then comes back to his battle with the government, which Charles has made an absolute red line that he will not cross. So do you really think this meeting does bring us any closer to Charles seeing his two grandchildren?
Not at the moment. And also, let's not forget that Meghan and Harry have been assiduous in making sure that those children were not, that nobody had access to them. And, I was told that one of the reason why some people were saying that Harry and Meghan could not accept the Queen's invitation to Balmoral was that there is tremendous nervousness as to if the children, I'm being very careful how I put this, by the way, you might have to read between the lines, that Meghan especially, but Harry as well, evidently are tremendously nervous that if there is too much access to the children, that all sorts of protections that they have put in place to secure the status of the children might come tumbling down. So I personally think, on the basis of the logic of that hypothesis, that Harry and Meghan know that the IPP status and security is not going to happen. And it's a very convenient thing to not happen, because he has pegged the children's stay here upon his receiving security for the children. But that's a red herring, because the fact of the matter is the children have security if they are staying in the royal palaces and within the royal orbit. So the idea that they wouldn't be safe is absolute rubbish. And then you have to ask, well, since the children would definitely be having security if they are staying with their grandfather or with their cousins or whatever, what is the real reason why they are using this as an excuse? Because it can't be the security, because the children have the security, and there is the inclination to believe. I need to choose my words carefully, Dan. Sorry. There is the inclination to believe that this is a way of making sure that nobody has access to the children in the United Kingdom. And of course, there are matters that underlying issues and underlying questions that need to be answered, and underlying issues that need to be resolved. And until such time as those are resolved, Harry and Meghan need to come up with what appears to be a valid reason why the children can't be brought to the country. But I mean, I just wrap this up by reiterating what I said earlier. This is nonsense, because the children, if they are in the royal orbit, have security. So it's not about the security. It's about the excuse that security gives them to maintain distance.
Indeed. And plus, it would also pose so many questions, given their current strategy is this bizarre thing of putting a little sticker or whatever over the children's face. And of course, that would not be able to happen if they came to the United Kingdom. But again, Tom Sykes really does bring a lot of this back to Charles's health. He says the Harry-Charles reconciliation makes a lot of sense if you understand King Charles is dying. Your response?
Well, Dan, of course, the king is dying. The king made the point, and I said it on my channel, I think earlier this week, or it might have been last week. I'm sorry, I'm so busy. I don't know what's happening from minute to minute. But anyway, my sense of time is a little bit off. But I made the point that Charles himself has said that he is dying, and that you start to die the moment you are born. And you don't know how long you have, but at the moment he's holding his own. And I've made the point again all along that I know exactly what is wrong with the king and what the treatments are that he's having. And I think we discussed this privately as well, as I have with Tom. And the fact of the matter is that he could, if he caught a bad bug, or if the drugs stopped working, he could be dead very quickly. But the that is the worst case scenario. And I mean, that's along the lines, or maybe it's not along the lines of, but that's sort of along the lines of, you step out onto a busy street, you could be knocked down. It's so, but I don't think it's fair to say that he expects he's going to be dead in 6 weeks or 3 months. He might be worried that he will not be around for 3 years or 5 years or 10 years. But my understanding is that the treatment he's having, as long as he continues responding to it, they can keep him ticking over for quite a long time. But also he is fully aware, because he's an intelligent man and he is a sophisticated man, and he's been, he's not being deceived as to the prognoses, that the treatment could stop working 6 weeks from now, or he could pick up a particularly bad bug and that could interact badly, and then he has a real problem. So he's aware of the fact that his time is definitively limited. He doesn't know how long he has, but he certainly knows that the likelihood is he's not going to make old bones the way his parents did. I mean, his lifespan realistically is not going to be for another 20 years, but it could be years, and our fingers crossed it will be years. But equally, if something goes wrong, it could be very quick. I mean, do you remember that cancer patient that Catherine was interacting with at the Royal Marsden? Well, she's the daughter of a childhood friend of mine. And she was on a very sophisticated treatment. And she died very quickly after something ceased working. So, I mean, that's cutting edge treatment. So the point I'm making is when you are in that sort of situation, even if you have the best treatment on earth, you don't know, there's no guarantee that it's going to work indefinitely. So he has to be aware of it. He has to lead his life with the awareness that he could be dead in 6 weeks or 6 months. Equally, with a bit of luck, he could be around for 4, 5, 6 years. But
yes,
maybe a lot of luck.
No, but he has that positivity, doesn't he? And that's why he is absolutely continuing the treatment. Very well explained, Lady C. Thank you.
May I make a point, Dan?
Please.
May I make a point in terms of the children?
Please.
The children are... Charles would like to see the children, but I don't think it's the bargaining chip that some people think it is, because, it would be nice if he saw them, but everybody privately knows that those children are being, shall we say, wrapped in cotton wool. So, to be diplomatic about it all.
That's the understatement of the year.
And there is very little likelihood of anybody having an intense or long-standing relationship with them. I think there's a general acceptance that it might be nice to have some interaction with them, but there was a reason why when the Queen wanted Meghan and Harry to bring those children for the last summer of her life up to Balmoral, they refused.
Yes, exactly.
And remember when
there was an invite.
But when the Queen died, and Meghan was here with Harry, they were offered to have the children flown over, and they refused. Let's remember that.
Oh, I never forget it. I never forget it. Exactly. Your point being that they are not going to make this easy for Charles. Lady C, I do just want to ask you about Harry's trip, though, because I found it really cringe and he's trying too hard. And we had this again last night. So he went to an event in the Gherkin, which is that building in central London. It was for the Invictus Games, which is obviously in lots of crisis. And he turned up and he initially described the fact that Charles was doing, in his words, great. But then he gave another one of these speeches where he's trying to sort of like tap into the cheeky chappy, the old Harry. And so he said, and I don't believe this speech is on camera, but he said, I think this whole thing has been slightly delayed. So at this point, you're all hammered, which was part of the plan all along, stuck up here at the top of the Gherkin. But then he turned serious, Lady C, statesman Harry, who we're meant to believe knows everything about, international conflict. And he said, we live in a time when conflicts rage across the globe, when anger and resentment towards those who are different can feel overwhelming. So there's the woke stuff, Lady C. It's the woke stuff. I mean, the slight irony, of course, that the person who was being shot dead at that time was Charlie Kirk, but we'll just park that there because, of course, that doesn't fit Harry's narrative. But he went on to say the Invictus community stands as a direct challenge to that. We prove that unity is not just possible, but formidable, that the bonds of courage, respect, and humanity are stronger than the divisions of politics, background, or nationality. So it's the typical Harry, isn't it? Which is do all of that kidding around, then some woke ideology, and then sort of claim that he's there to save the world. The mainstream media, Lady C, have swallowed this hook, line, and sinker all week. But have you?
I have two words as a counter to that. Edward Fortescue. And to those of your viewers who don't know what I'm speaking about, Edward Fortescue is a veteran. The Fortescues are a very, very eminent military family. He posts himself as Edward Fortescue IV. So if you Google Edward Fortescue, you'll see that there's this long line of very eminent Fortescues. And let's remember what he said about Harry. And do you have what he said about Harry? Because
I've read it out on this show previously, but he then went and deleted it, I think, because the backlash was so significant. But I mean, it was very powerful, wasn't it?
Yes. And Harry knows that there is a strong movement, which again, Dan, we have been addressing for the better part of a year, to get Harry removed as a patron of Invictus. And I don't think that's going to stop. Harry is over here really to try to stop the rot. He has very little royal stuff left, or let me rephrase it. He has very few endeavors that can that allow him to function as if he were still a working royal. Invictus is one of them. Wellchild is another.
Prince Harry finally got the meeting with his father that many royal watchers had been waiting for. But was this really the emotional breakthrough that some headlines made it sound like? According to the reporting discussed in this video, the answer may be far less dramatic. The meeting at Clarence House reportedly lasted considerably less time than the overall period Harry spent at the residence, and claims from Lady Colin Campbell suggest the actual private conversation may have been somewhere around 25 to 30 minutes. Even more striking are the allegations that Harry was not left completely alone with King Charles. So, was this reconciliation, or simply a carefully controlled meeting between a father and son who still have serious issues to resolve? Let's break down exactly what has been reported. The timeline surrounding the meeting is important because simply looking at Harry's total time inside Clarence House does not necessarily tell us how long he spent speaking directly with his father. The reporting cited in the original discussion says King Charles had other engagements before and after Harry's arrival. Harry reportedly entered Clarence House at around 5:21 p.m., while the king had another engagement scheduled later in the afternoon. Harry then reportedly left shortly after 6 o'clock. On the surface, that creates the impression of a substantial meeting. But there is an important distinction between the amount of time someone spends inside a royal residence and the amount of time they actually spend sitting down with a monarch. That distinction becomes central to the claims made later in this discussion. And this is where the story becomes much bigger than the number of minutes Harry spent at Clarence House. 25 minutes would not repair years of family conflict. 45 minutes would not repair it either. If you expected a dramatic royal reconciliation, a public embrace, and an immediate return to family harmony, then clearly that did not happen. But if the purpose was simply to reopen communication between a father and son, then the meeting could still prove meaningful. The claims about the meeting being only 25 to 30 minutes long and Harry allegedly not being alone with his father remain just that, claims that have not been fully confirmed publicly. What happens next will tell us far more. Do you think Harry and King Charles are genuinely rebuilding their relationship, or was this simply a carefully controlled conversation with very limited consequences? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more analysis of Prince Harry, Meghan Markle, King Charles, and the wider royal family story, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and I'll see you in the next video.